happened when someone saw a missing person poster that looked like the bride? Story 1. We were at the rehearsal dinner when I first noticed it. Outside the little Italian place we booked, taped to the lamppost just beside the valet stand, was a faded missing person poster. It wouldn't have caught my attention, but the photo, it looked exactly like my brother's fiancée, Anna. Same smile. Same freckle pattern near the left eye. The name said Rachel Monroe, missing since 2018. The resemblance was uncanny. I took a photo of the flyer and confronted Anna later that night, casually, over wine, not wanting to seem paranoid. She laughed at first, said she gets told she has one of those faces, but then I noticed the shift in her tone, like her smile was still there, but the warmth behind it had left. I sent the flyer pic to a friend who works in law enforcement. He called me back the next morning, said I needed to stall the wedding, that the flyer was real, and that Rachel Monroe was suspected to be a victim in an interstate human trafficking case. When we tried to talk to Anna again, she was gone. Bags packed, hotel room empty, left behind her dress, her ring, and a note that simply read, "I'm sorry. I wanted this life. I almost believed I could have it." We never saw her again. Story 2. My cousin Jake was marrying this woman named Mara. None of us had met her before the engagement. They'd only been together 8 months, but Jake was head over heels. Day of the wedding, my mom pulls me aside in the church lobby holding her phone. "Look," she says, showing me a missing persons poster shared on Facebook by a local shelter. It was Mara. Same piercing green eyes, same elaborate sleeve tattoo on her left arm. But the name was different. Sophia Rains. Missing since 2020 from Vermont. I confronted Jake during the groomsmen photos. He laughed it off, said it was a prank. He even showed me Mara's ID, completely legit. But something felt wrong. I messaged the original poster on Facebook. They replied during the reception. Turns out, Sophia had vanished after exposing some serious fraud inside a non-profit she worked. Her family believed she'd been forced into hiding. I showed Jake the message. He turned pale, then immediately asked Mara if they could talk privately. 10 minutes later, she was gone. Jake told us later she admitted everything. She loved him but couldn't keep hiding. She left to turn herself in and clear her name. They still talk. No wedding, but maybe, someday. Story 3. It was my ex's wedding. Yeah, awkward I was even there, but her mom insisted. "Friends first," she said. Whatever. Midway through the reception, I went outside for air. Right by the venue doors, I saw a missing person flyer stuck to a community. I froze. It was her. My ex. The bride. The name was Emily Kane, missing since 2016. The photo was from a DMV ID, but it was unmistakably her. Hair dyed darker now, but same face. Same dimpled grin. I ran inside straight to her, pulled her aside and showed her the flyer. She stared at it, then looked at me with such sadness. "It's not what you think," she whispered. I didn't run away. I escaped. Apparently, she'd been in an abusive home, no way out. One night, she faked her own disappearance with the help of a friend and vanished. New name, new life. Her husband knew everything, but her past caught up too soon. Police came by that night. After some long talks and a whole lot of crying, they agreed not to press charges. Her mother, her real mother, came to see her the next week. That wedding became something else entirely. A reunion. A reckoning. A new start. Story 4. I was working the photo booth at a big wedding in upstate New York. Gorgeous bride, big money family, top tier everything. During cocktail hour, one of the bridesmaids came up to me in a panic. She showed me a missing person alert she got via text. Amber Alert style. It was a face that looked exactly like the bride. Different hair, but same eyes, same chin. The name was Lena Groves, missing from Ohio 6 years ago. I thought it was a prank, until the groom's father caught wind of it. His face went white. Turns out the bride was Lena. She'd escaped a cult-like religious commune her family belonged to. She'd been on the run since 19. Faked records. Changed her name. Started fresh. The FBI showed up during the reception. Her past didn't catch her because of a mistake. Someone from the commune had tracked her through wedding announcements. They let her go eventually. Turns out she was never a suspect, just someone desperately trying to survive. But the wedding was over. The groom stuck by her, though. Said he'd marry her again, every day, even if the whole world watched. Story 5. This happened to my older sister's best friend. She was getting married in Colorado. Destination wedding, mountains, snow, the works. The morning of the ceremony, her fiancé's little cousin was walking around town when she saw a missing child poster. Only it wasn't a child in the photo. It was clearly a younger version of the bride. Same distinct scar on her forehead. Same birthmark. The poster said she went missing at age 11 from a small town in Canada. Her name had been Jenna Wallace. We were all stunned. She had told everyone she grew up overseas with her aunt after her parents died. Turns out, the truth was far darker. Her mother had kidnapped her during a custody battle and changed her name. They moved constant. She never knew the full story until that poster. She still went through with the wedding, but only after calling her biological father. They met 2 days later. He walked her down the aisle at the second ceremony. Not a dry eye in sight. Story 6. At my cousin's wedding, I was playing with the disposable cameras they left on each table when I wandered toward the venue's hallway. Taped to the bulletin board near the bathrooms was a cluster of local postings, babysitters, yard sales, and one missing person flyer. It was her. The bride. The name read Isabel Green, missing since 2017 from Kansas. But there she was, smiling on the paper with slightly shorter hair, standing in a completely different state, marrying my cousin. I took a photo of the flyer and sent it to my sister, who instantly replied, "That's her, 100%. We didn't know what to do. Do we tell him? Do we call the cops?" Eventually, I showed my mom, who decided to quietly bring it to the bride's father, who was, oddly, not her biological father, but someone she'd referred to as a stepdad since high school. The man looked at the flyer and didn't say a word. He folded it, walked outside, and never came back. The bride found out an hour later and broke down crying. The truth came out that night. She was kidnapped by a family friend at 15 and had only recently escaped. Her stepdad was actually her abductor. She hadn't told anyone out of fear he'd find her again. That wedding turned into a rescue mission, but at least now she was finally free. Story 7. My best friend married a woman named Eliza. She was funny, charming, totally adored him. The night before the wedding, we were at a bar nearby for his bachelor party. I stepped outside to take a call, and on a community corkboard was an old, weather-beaten missing person poster. It said, "Have you seen Amelia Hart?" I stared at the photo for a solid minute. It was her, Eliza. I snapped a picture and brought it back to the group. At first, everyone laughed, thinking it was a coincidence. But the scar on the eyebrow? Identical. The birth date? Matched the info he once mentioned. I waited until the morning to show my friend. He brushed it off, called it nonsense, but I could tell it rattled him. After the honeymoon, he called me. Eliza confessed. She had run away from an abusive home at 17 and never looked back. Changed her name, got her GED, rebuilt her life from scratch. He stayed with her. Said she wasn't a missing person to him. She was the person who saved his life. Story 8. We were halfway through the reception when the DJ announced they'd found a lost phone and were trying to unlock it. The maid of honor went up to help. It was her. But when she unlocked it, a flood of notifications popped up from a Reddit thread she was subscribed to. Unsolved missing persons. Pinned at the top, a post titled, "Help Find Marissa Dale." I didn't see it myself, but word spread like wildfire. The bride's real name was Marissa. She'd gone missing from Oregon 8 years ago. The photo in the post was her, just young. The groom's brother confronted her quietly. She didn't deny it. She said she never meant to lie. She ran away from a controlling foster situation. By the end of the night, the wedding turned into a family meeting. The groom stood by her side and said, "She chose to live. She chose me. That's all that matters now." Not everyone clapped, but I did. Story 9. My sister married a man who came from a wealthy family, the kind who throws lavish garden weddings with signature cocktails and string quartets. His bride, Claire, had this radiant, almost ethereal beauty about her, like someone out of a dream. During the wedding photos, the photographer's assistant went to grab a lens from their van. She came back pale. She had seen a "Have you seen her?" poster in a nearby coffee shop window. The photo was a younger version of Claire. Name, Ava Renaud. Missing since 2015. Location, Marseille, France. The assistant didn't say anything until after the wedding ended. She showed the photographer, who quietly pulled me aside because I speak French. I looked it up. Ava Renaud was the daughter of a high-profile political figure in France. She had vanished during a student trip to the U.S. Police had long suspected foul play. I didn't know what to do. I eventually emailed the embassy with the flyer photo. A month later, Interpol showed up at their house. Claire, or Eva, didn't fight it. She told her husband everything before they came. Said she ran away to escape the pressure, the surveillance, the life that never felt like hers. They're still married. She was never a criminal, just someone who finally got to choose who she wanted to be. Story 10. This happened at my coworker's wedding last fall. I was there with a date I'd just started seeing. During cocktail hour, she tapped me on the arm and said, "Don't freak out, but I think the bride is someone I saw on a missing person documentary." I rolled my eyes, but she pulled it up on her phone. Episode 4 of Vanished, Midwest Shadows. There she was. Same face, Younger, thinner, shorter hair, but definitely her. Name: Jessica Lynn Hollis. Disappeared at age 19. I couldn't ignore it. I pulled the groom aside, he and I were decent friends, and showed him. He went pale, said he knew. Jessica had told him everything on their third date. She had been kidnapped by her boyfriend and locked away for months before escaping. She never went back to her old life, fearing retaliation. She rebuilt everything, changed her name, got therapy, found him. He said, "I didn't marry a victim. I married a survivor." We didn't tell anyone. That was her story to tell. Story 11. 2 hours before the ceremony, I was walking through the hotel lobby where my cousin was getting married, just stretching my legs. On the lobby bulletin board, buried between flyers for yoga classes and local events, was a missing person poster. And my stomach dropped. It looked exactly like my cousin's bride-to-be, Kara. The name said, Melissa Crane, missing since 2012, age 17. The picture was slightly younger, but it was her. Same eyes, same small scar near her collarbone. No mistaking it. I didn't know what to do. I told my older brother, and he quietly pulled our mom aside. Within an hour, my aunt approached Kara's parents. Things got weird, tense. Turns out they weren't her parents. Just friends of the family who took her in after she ran away. Kara, Melissa, had escaped a cult-like religious group in rural Idaho when she was a teenager and never looked back. She'd built a new life, a real one, with a new name. She came clean to my cousin just days before the wedding. He knew. He loved her anyway. She didn't go missing. She went free. Story 12. I work as a wedding photographer. Been doing it for 12 years, seen all kinds of wild stuff. But nothing like this. It was an outdoor wedding in a small, artsy town in Washington. During the dinner break, I wandered down the road to grab a coffee. In the window of the cafe was a handmade missing person flyer. Not printed, but drawn in pencil. It looked like the bride. Not a perfect match, but close. The sketch was old. The caption said, "Have you seen Eloise?" With no last name, just a note. Last seen in foster care, disappeared 10 years ago. I didn't think much of it until the bride came to me later, asking to review the ceremony footage early. She was panicked. Said someone was asking questions. I later learned her name was Eloise. She'd been in and out of the system, then went missing at 16. She ran away from a group home after exposing abuse and was terrified of being sent back. She'd built a life, college, a business, love. That night, someone from her past must have recognized her. She didn't run this time. She spoke out, got a lawyer, took back her name and her story. And yes, she kept the wedding video. Story 13. The weird part was how normal everything felt. It was a destination wedding in Mexico, small and intimate. Bride and groom seemed perfect together. We'd been celebrating all weekend. The morning of the ceremony, I went to the concierge to ask about arranging a shuttle. On the desk was a folder of missing persons. A local charity posted them weekly, hoping tourists might spot some. A photo fell out. I stared. It was her. The bride. Different name, of course. But the picture said, Natalie Rowan. Missing since 2011. Maybe using aliases. Last seen crossing border into Mexico. I couldn't breathe for a second. I showed my sister. She thought it was nuts. A coincidence. But that night, during the father-daughter dance, someone showed up at the edge of the resort. A man in a faded sheriff's jacket. He didn't cause a scene. Just stood there, watching. She noticed. Her face changed. She whispered something to her husband and left the dance floor. We never saw her again. The groom spent the rest of the night staring at the ocean. Story 14. It was my brother's wedding, and the bride, Camilla, was the kind of person who lit up every room. Funny, kind, always made you feel like you were the only one she was talking to. The day after the wedding, while we were cleaning up the venue, my nephew came up holding a crumpled piece of paper he found in the parking lot. "Isn't this Aunt Camilla?" he asked. It was a missing person flyer, but the name said Daniela Alvarez. We Googled it. She'd gone missing in Texas back in 2014. Family assumed she'd been trafficked. There was a whole Facebook page dedicated to her. Same face, same birthmark on her jawline. I showed it to my brother later that night. He looked at it, then back at me. She told me on our second date. Turns out she'd been taken, escaped, hid for years. She didn't want to relive it, but promised to speak to her family one day when she felt safe. She made that call a week later. They cried for hours. Story 15. At the reception, I was seated next to a woman I didn't know, friend of the groom, I think. Midway through dinner, she leaned over and asked, "Has anyone ever mentioned the bride looks like that girl who went missing in Arizona a few years ago?" I shrugged it off. But curiosity got me. I looked it up. Searched Arizona missing girl hiking 2019. And there she was. Lily Hammond. Same long auburn hair, same smile. I showed my girlfriend. Her jaw dropped. I didn't want to cause drama, but I sent the image to a contact of mine who works in public records. He got back to me that night. The file was closed, officially ruled as presumed deceased. She'd vanished during a hiking trip. Her fiancé at the time was the prime suspect. Now she was married to someone else, under a new name, a new state. No one ever asked why. Story 16. My friend Zoe got married in a small mountain town. Quiet, picturesque, very Instagram-worthy. On the morning of the wedding, we went into town to grab coffee. Outside the general store was a missing person flyer taped to the window. And I swear, I thought it was her. Same face, just younger. The name said Harper Lane, missing since 2015. I showed it to the others. Everyone went quiet. It wasn't just similar, it was her. Maybe 5 or 6 years younger. Back at the venue, I pulled her aside and asked gently. She stared at the flyer, then exhaled like she'd been waiting for this moment. She told me Harper was her name. She'd left an abusive home, crossed state lines, and started over. She was 17, said she never reported it, never looked back. Her new husband knew. He'd helped her through panic attacks and nights when she couldn't sleep. After the ceremony, she asked me for the flyer. Said she'd call her sister, the only family member she still missed. They spoke for hours that night. Cried together. Turns out she wasn't lost. Just finally ready to be found. Story 17. It was a late October wedding, spooky vibes, black dress code, even a fog machine during the ceremony. Right after the vows, a little kid ran up to the groom holding a crumpled piece of paper. He'd found it under one of the dinner tables. It was a missing person poster. No one knew how it got there, but the photo was clear. It was the bride, no question. Name listed as Talia Mendez. Missing from New Mexico, 2013. Someone in the bridal party Googled it. A Reddit thread popped up. Theories about her disappearance, sightings, even a police report. The groom never blinked. Said he knew. Said he helped her through everything. Apparently, she'd been part of witness protection as a teen. Fled after her identity was exposed. She was never supposed to settle anywhere for two, but she did. With him. The poster? No one ever figured out who brought it. Maybe someone from the past. Maybe a warning. Either way, they disappeared again the next morning. Together. Story 18. My college roommate invited me to her sister's wedding. I didn't know anyone there, but I was enjoying the open bar and quiet drama of distant relatives. At one point, I stepped outside to take a breather. Near the back of the venue, behind the catering truck, I spotted a corkboard nailed to the fence, probably used for local ads or business cards. One flyer caught my eye. A black and white printout of a missing person notice. Young woman. Strong jawline. Sharp cheekbones. The name was Reina Vasquez. I blinked. It looked exactly like the bride. Same dimples. Same mole above the lip. Back inside, I asked my roommate quietly. She went pale. Apparently, the bride was Reina. She'd gone missing at 16 during a custody dispute and ended up in the foster system under a fake name. She didn't even know she was still reported missing until 2 years ago. By then, she was in college, living a new life, afraid that undoing it all would destroy everything. Her new husband helped her reconnect with her birth mom quietly. The flyer? Left anonymously. No one claimed it, but she wasn't scared. Not anymore. Story 19. We were just guests. My wife's coworker was getting married, and we didn't know many people. The venue was this historic manor house in upstate New York. Creepy, beautiful, lots of candles and wood-paneled walls. While exploring, we found a dusty hallway that led to an old library room. On a side table near the exit was a stack of old news clippings laminated under glass. At the top, a missing person poster. I laughed at first. Looks like the bride, I said. My wife didn't laugh. It was her. Same face. Same tattoo on her forearm, peeking out of the wedding dress sleeve. The story said, Lydia Penrose, last seen 2006, presumed dead. When we asked around, one of the groomsmen said quietly, "Yeah, that's her. She escaped something bad. It's why they don't allow phones at this wedding." We never found out the full story. But when the bride hugged us goodbye, she whispered, "Thanks for not asking too many questions." Story 20. It was a beach wedding in Florida. Casual, barefoot, steel drum band. The vibe was light and fun. I was helping with the guest book table when I saw someone pin a paper to the side of the tent. I thought it was a local flyer, maybe an ad or lost pet. But it was a missing person poster. I walked over and stared. The bride, no doubt about it. But the name was Ariel Tran, missing since 2011. The photo was old, but her smile hadn't changed. I took a picture and showed the groom's sister, someone I knew well. She turned red. Don't mention it, she said. They don't want it to be a thing. Later, I found out Ariel had escaped an abusive foster family. She'd legally changed her name, but her case had never been updated in the system. She tried but got lost in the bureaucracy. She carried that flyer home from the wedding. She called the detective who handled her case. A week later, the file was closed. Officially, she wasn't missing. She was married. She was finally seen. Story 21. During my friend's wedding in a small Tennessee town, I ran to a nearby gas station for some gum before the ceremony. Right by the entrance was a wall covered in local posters. Lost dogs, mechanic ads, missing persons. I glanced quickly and then froze. One of the flyers had a photo that looked eerily like the bride. Same eyes, same crooked smile, even the same earrings. Name, Savannah Moore. Missing since 2016. It creeped me out enough to take a picture. I wasn't going to say anything until later, but at the reception, her mom gave a speech, and that's when she called her Savannah instead of Lauren. Everyone kind of brushed past it, thinking it was just emotional nerves. But I caught eyes with the groom. He knew. You could see it in his face. Later that night, I asked. He nodded. She didn't go missing. She left. For a reason. That's all he said. Story 22. The wedding was at this old bed and breakfast out in Pennsylvania. Very cottagecore, vintage decor, like something out of a Jane Austen fever dream. While helping set up chairs, I went around back and found a stack of newspapers someone had used to level a wobbly table. On the top one was a face that stopped me cold. Headline, Cold Case. Spotlight, Where is Ava Carlisle? I knew that face. It was the bride, no question. Different hair, but everything else matched. I showed the maid of honor, who immediately told me not to bring it up. She doesn't talk about that part of her life. Turns out Ava had been adopted by relatives after disappearing from the foster system. She hadn't even known people were still looking for her. She contacted authorities that week and confirmed her identity. The detective who'd worked her case sent her a letter. He said he never forgot her. Neither did her brother. They reconnected. He flew in the next month. He met her husband. They hugged like they'd been waiting a decade. Story 23. I was the wedding plan. That's how I saw the flyer first. Stuck to the inside of a bathroom stall. Odd place, right? It was worn, water-stained, but the face was still visible. The name said, Vanessa Lee, last seen in Seattle, 2014. It looked just like the bride. Same hairstyle, same sleepy eyes. I hesitated. I mean, it wasn't my place. But I showed the venue manager, who quietly showed it to the bride. She went pale. She told me very calmly that her real name was Vanessa. She'd been trafficked, escaped, and built a life in secret ever since. She'd never told the groom everything, just that she got away from something bad. She left the venue before the ceremony, but the next week, she came back, told him the truth. They got married a month later, just the two of them and a justice of the peace. Sometimes, love waits for the truth. Story 24. My brother's bride, Allison, was the definition of sweet. Always smiling, always helpful, the kind of person you just instantly liked. 2 days before the wedding, I went to grab takeout and saw a flyer on a light pole outside the restaurant. I don't know what made me look twice. Maybe it was the hair or the curve of the smile, but the girl looked just like Allison. I took a photo and brought it up gently that night. My brother shrugged. Yeah, she told me a while ago. She was born Emily Rose Mathis. Went missing at age 12. Abduction, apparently. Was kept hidden for years until she escaped at 17. She never went home. Said she couldn't face what she'd lost. I asked if she ever thought about reconnecting. He said, every time she looks in the mirror, she's haunted by her old name. But she's trying. They made a small mention of it in their vows. Not who she was, who she chose to be. Story 25. At the wedding of an old high school friend, the bride looked radiant, the kind of beauty you don't forget. And that's what made it weird. Because I had seen her before, not in real life, but on the Unresolved Mysteries subreddit. 2 years ago, someone posted a case about a girl named Jillian Ward, who vanished on a road trip through Utah. Her car was found, but she was gone without a trace. I pulled out my phone and found the post. Side by side? No denying it. Same face. Even the same tiny heart tattoo behind her ear. I showed my girlfriend, then quietly asked one of the groomsmen about it. He looked genuinely shocked. Took a photo, left the room. Turns out the groom knew, but she swore him to secrecy. Jillian had staged her disappearance to escape a stalker who the police refused to take seriously. She hid, cut ties with her family for safety, and started over. She cried when she found out her sister had posted that Reddit thread. After the honeymoon, she reached out. The case is still listed as unsolved, but her family knows the truth now, and that she's safe. Story 26. I was at my boyfriend's cousin's wedding. Big event, elegant venue. The bride, Olivia, was absolutely glowing. Seemed like a fairy tale. But just before the ceremony started, my boyfriend's mom came back from a walk down the block, holding her phone. "Doesn't this look like Olivia?" she asked, showing us a photo she took. It was a missing person poster on a nearby telephone pole. Name, Lily Sorensen. Missing since 2015. We all stared. It was her. Slightly younger, different hairstyle, but unmistakable. My boyfriend's aunt quietly showed it to the groom. He nodded, took a deep breath and said, "She told me. Years ago." Turns out Lily had escaped an abusive family situation. She'd been hiding under a new name ever since. They'd built a life together on honesty, just not honesty with the world. After the ceremony, I watched her tearfully take down the poster. She folded it gently, tucked it into her bouquet, and kept walking. Story 27. We were seated at a table with the bride's co-workers, people who clearly didn't know her well. One of them pulled up a Reddit thread and said, "You guys, tell me this isn't Natalie." She passed the phone around. It was a post titled, "Still Missing, Where is Jane Keller?" Same face, same nose ring. The only difference was the name. When the groom's sister saw it, she went pale. She pulled the groom aside, and within minutes, the energy in the room shifted. Guests whispered. The music stopped. Someone escorted the bride out. Later, we found out Jane had gone missing in 2014. She'd been living under the radar ever since, working odd jobs, changing cities often. She hadn't been in danger, she just wanted to disappear. To start over. That wedding was never completed. But 2 months later, she and the groom eloped quietly. She said she didn't want a spotlight. She wanted a life. Story 28. I work security for events, mostly weddings. Usually pretty uneventful, but this one, a late autumn wedding at a winery, got strange fast. An older woman showed up midway through the reception, not on the guest list. She was quiet, polite, just stood near the edge of the dance floor with a flyer in her hand. I approached her, expecting a problem. Instead, she asked, "Can I see the bride up close?" "I think she's my daughter." I looked at the flyer. The name was Emily Ross, missing since 2008. The bride looked exactly like her photo. I called the groom over. He took one look and said, "She told me this might happen someday." We gently brought the bride out. When she saw the woman, she just froze. Then she hugged her. The bride had been taken from foster care as a teen by someone who meant well, but kept her hidden. When she escaped, she didn't know where to go. Now she knew. They danced together later that night. Mother and daughter. Finally, story 29. My cousin's wedding was at a lakeside lodge, real rustic and peaceful. The kind of place that felt frozen in time. There was a corkboard in the lodge lobby filled with flyers, canoe rentals, yoga classes, and one old missing person poster. I glanced at it while checking in and had to do a double take. The photo was old, but I knew that face. The bride. Name, Chelsea Nguyen. Gone since 2013. I asked my dad about it. He used to work in social services. He got real serious. Said that name had once crossed his desk. During the dinner, he quietly asked the bride about it. She nodded, eyes glassy. Said she'd been trafficked, escaped, changed her name, spent years trying to disappear. But when she met my cousin, she said, "It was the first time I wanted to be found." The flyer. Left on purpose, she told us. A quiet message to her past. I made it out. I'm alive. Story 30. I was a florist delivering the final arrangements to a mountaintop venue when I saw a flyer pinned to the back of the event coordinator's clip. It looked out of place. Black and white, clearly aged. A missing girl named Noelle Bryant vanished at 17, last seen in Oregon. My hands stopped mid-fluffing a bouquet. It was the bride. No question. The coordinator must have noticed my stare. She gently said, "She knows. She just wants today to be hers." Apparently, Noelle had been living off-grid for years, working as a wilderness guide. She never trusted the system to protect her. The groom found out after their first few dates. He never judged her, just helped her bloom again. The flyer wasn't meant to expose her. It was meant to close the loop. She later pinned it to the back of her chair at the reception. Quietly, a symbol, a goodbye to the version of her that never made it home. Story 31. The wedding was held at a public botanical garden, and as I walked in with the rest of the guests, I noticed a community board near the entrance. Mostly local ads and event notices, but one poster stood out. It was a missing person flyer. At first, I thought it was some weird prank. The photo looked exactly like the bride, even down to the necklace she always wore. The name was Clarissa Ewell, reported missing in 2012, last seen in Louisiana. But we were in Oregon. I took a photo and didn't say anything until the reception, where I casually showed it to a friend of the groom. His reaction wasn't shock. It was resignation. She told him everything a long time ago. Turns out she'd been part of a cult-like family compound. Ran at 17. Changed her name. Built a life. He found her story beautiful. Said she wasn't someone running from her past. She was someone running toward her future. They later turned that flyer into the authorities. It was removed from the system 2 weeks later. Story 32. It was my niece's wedding, and the whole thing had been planned down to the second. Sunset vows, candlelit reception, custom cocktails named after their dogs, and then a drunk guest stumbled in, waving a flyer around like he'd discovered gold. "Hey, this looks like the bride," he shouted. People laughed, but I took a look and immediately stopped smiling. It was her. The name on the flyer was Maya Delgado, missing since 2010. She would have been 15 then. Her smile in the photo was smaller, guarded, but it was her. I watched as her husband walked over, looked at the paper, then just folded it silently and put it in his jacket. Later that night, she gave a quiet toast. "Thank you," she said, "to those who let me be who I am, not who I was, or who I had to pretend to be." No one asked questions. Some stories don't need to be told in full to be understood. Story 33. I was a bridesmaid, and I'd known the bride, Sam, since college. She was private, but wonderful. Always had a bit of mystery to her, like she came from somewhere else. The morning of the wedding, I ran out to grab some snacks and coffee for the bridal suite. At the entrance to the gas station was an old bulletin board with missing posters. I nearly dropped my coffee. It was her, Sam, but the name read Madeline Shore, missing from Minnesota. Gone since 2011. I stared for minutes, trying to rationalize it. When I got back, I pulled her aside. "Sam," I whispered, "is there something you want to tell me?" She looked at the flyer, and for a second her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't think it would follow me here," she said quietly. She told me she left home at 16 after witnessing something she wasn't supposed to. The people involved had power. She couldn't go to the police, so she disappeared. Started over. I promised not to tell him, and I haven't. But every time I see her now, I think about the girl she used to be, and how much strength it must have taken to survive. Story 34. At my friend's wedding, the best man showed up late and sweaty, holding a flyer he'd picked up off the windshield of his car. He rushed up to me and whispered, "Dude, this is her. Look." I took one glance and my stomach turned. The photo showed a teenage girl, same eyes, same chin, with the name Tess Monroe, reported missing from Idaho in 2009. We were in Colorado. I didn't want to believe it. I showed the maid of honor. She looked stunned. Said she always wondered why the bride never talked about her childhood. We waited until after the first dance. Then gently, she was told. The bride went completely silent. Then she walked outside and sat down for a long time. Eventually, she came back in. She pulled her new husband aside. They hugged for a long time. That was it. No scandal. No reveal. Just quiet acceptance. Later, I learned she made a phone call that night. To a brother she hadn't spoken to in over a decade. Story 35. The bride, Jess, was glowing. The wedding was rustic and warm, tucked in the hills of Northern California. Everyone said it felt like a movie. Until I went to grab some water from the bar area and noticed a small flyer on the corkboard inside the venue's lounge. A missing person poster. It was her. Different hair, younger but unmistakable. Name? Eva Sinclair. Gone since 2012. Age 18. I didn't know what to do, but curiosity got the better of me. I looked up the name. Turns out Eva had been listed as missing voluntarily. She'd fled a high-control religious group. Her family claimed they just wanted her back. But from the look on her face during the vows, she wasn't running anymore. Later, as we were leaving, I saw her pin a note next to the poster. "Don't look for me anymore. I've found where I belong." Story 36. My sister married a man she met while traveling in Canada. His bride, Naomi, was sweet, quiet, a little shy, the kind of person you instinctively want to protect. Everything about the wedding was perfect until the night before, when my dad, of all people, saw something on a news segment running silently on the bar TV. A cold case update. They flashed a photo of a missing girl. Name, Rachel Linden, missing from Washington State since 2011. He swore it was Naomi. Showed me a picture he took of the screen. And, yeah, it looked like her. We didn't want to panic anyone, so I approached her privately and asked gently. She froze. Then she nodded. "Rachel's gone," she said. "But I'm still here." She told me she ran away from an abusive home. She'd been listed as missing, but no one ever looked too hard. Especially not after her stepfather got arrested for something unrelated years later. She left for her own survival. The groom already knew. He was the first person she'd ever told. They still got married. But the next day, she contacted her birth, who she hadn't seen in 14 years. That call changed everything. Story 37. It wasn't even me who noticed. It was my 10-year-old daughter. We were at a wedding in a big city ballroom, and she was playing near the lobby when she ran up and said, "That lady on the sign looks like the bride." I brushed it off until I followed her to where she saw it, a laminated poster on a donation box. It was for a missing woman named Layla Bryant, disappeared from Florida in 2016. The face? I mean, it was a match. I showed it to my wife. She turned white. "That is her," she whispered. We debated what to do. Quietly brought it to the groom's brother. He looked heartbroken but not surprised. "She told my brother," he said, "years ago. She never wanted to fake a life, just start a new one." Apparently, Layla had escaped a human trafficking ring and made it to safety. She'd stayed hidden for years. That night, she danced like someone who'd never had a childhood. We didn't tell our daughter the truth until years later. When we did, she just said, "Good. I'm glad she got her happy ending." Story 38. I wasn't even at the wedding. I was just a barista at the coffee shop across the street. That morning, I saw a man come in looking a little shaken. He asked to put up a missing person flyer on our board. I said sure. When I saw the flyer, I felt this weird chill. The name was Mira Johnson, missing since 2015. And she looked exactly like the bride I'd seen in the window across the street a few minutes earlier. She was standing on the venue balcony laughing, glass of champagne in hand. Same face, same smile, same gap in her teeth. Out of curiosity, I walked over during my break and peeked inside. I caught a glimpse of her again and knew it wasn't a mistake. I never told anyone. But 3 days later, the same man came back smiling. Said, "I found her. She's safe." That's all I needed. He didn't say who he was, but I've never forgotten the look of quiet relief on his face. Story 39. My coworker married a woman named Haley, who seemed a little too perfect. Always calm, always polite, almost like she was rehearsed. At the wedding, during the cocktail hour, I overheard someone say, "That's so weird. She looks just like this girl who went missing in Oregon." I pulled up the missing person registry. Typed in Oregon 2010 female. One of the first results was Maren Holt. My breath caught. Same face. Her smile was unmistakable. I showed it to another guest who knew her, and they just said, "Oh my God." Eventually, I asked the groom's sister. She said yes, it was true. Maren had vanished after escaping her foster home. She had her reasons and she never looked back. The groom knew from the beginning. It wasn't a secret between them, just a secret from the rest of the world. She wasn't running any, just finally walking forward. Story 40. The weirdest thing? It wasn't a flyer. It was a painting. At the art gallery where the wedding was being held, some of the couple's favorite local artists had work hanging on the walls. One piece in particular stopped me cold. It was titled, "The Lost One." It was a portrait, and it was the bride. Same freckles, same haunted eyes. I asked one of the staff members who painted it. They told me it had been submitted anonymously years ago. The subject was based on a girl who had gone missing from a shelter in Arizona. Name, Danny Whitaker. I looked it up. The old missing poster came up instant. The resemblance wasn't just close, it was perfect. When I brought it up to the groom's best friend, he quietly said, "Yeah, she knows. She chose this place for a reason." The gallery was where she used to sleep behind dumpsters at night. It was the only place she ever felt safe. Now, she'd turned it into the place she said her vows. She wasn't just getting married. She was reclaiming her story. Story 41. At a small wedding in Maine, held in a converted barn near the coast, everything felt straight out of a Pinterest board. During the reception, I was walking to my car to grab a sweater when I saw a dog-eared missing person poster half tucked under someone's windshield wiper. It was faded from rain. The photo was of a girl named Marissa Doyle, missing since 2010. I stared. I knew that face. It was the bride. I snapped a picture and didn't say anything until the next day. I sent it to my cousin, the groom's sister, and asked if she'd ever seen it before. She called me 10 minutes later, crying. She told us the truth last year. She ran away at 15. The things she survived, we never asked for details. Just promised her she was safe now. Turns out the poster had been placed there by someone from her old life, maybe a family member, maybe someone else. She saw it too. That night, she burned it in the fire pit outside the barn. Then she came back inside, kissed her husband, and danced barefoot in the grass. Story 42. I was a server at a wedding held in a massive, fancy estate in Georgia. Between courses, I was bussing empty glasses near the coat room when I saw a piece of paper sticking out from the trash bin. It was torn, but I could still read most of it. Missing. Eleanor Crane. Last seen 2012. I pulled it out, The photo was old, but the eyes, same as the bride's. I asked one of the other servers if he knew anything. He said a woman had been walking around before the wedding started, asking questions about the bride. Staff asked her to leave. It clicked. That woman must have brought the flyer. Later, I was helping clean up when I noticed the bride alone on the patio, staring into the trees. I asked if she was okay. She looked at me and said softly, "I used to be Eleanor, but that name doesn't belong to me anymore." She smiled. Not sad, free. Story 43. It was my cousin's wedding in Denver. Everything was running late. Makeup, weather, guests. While waiting, I wandered into a nearby bookstore cafe and noticed a flyer pinned to the community. It looked like a standard missing person poster until I realized I recognized the face. Brielle Carr. Missing since 2013. It was my cousin's bride. I felt sick. I didn't want to ruin the wedding, but I also couldn't keep it to myself. I showed it to my cousin quietly. He didn't even flinch, just stared at the flyer, then said, "She told me on our first date." He explained she'd left home due to religious abuse and was never reported as runaway. Her parents claimed she was kidnapped. She'd tried to clear it up, but they refused to cooperate, so she cut ties completely. The flyer must have been old, reposted by someone unaware of the truth. They kept it. Said it was a reminder of everything she overcame. Story 44. A guest at the wedding I was photographing approached me mid-reception and said, "Hey, you're good with cameras, right? Can you look at this?" He showed me a picture he'd taken earlier that day at a gas station down the road. It was a missing person flyer, taped to the window. When I looked at the photo, I instantly recognized the face. It was the bride, no doubt about it. Name on the flyer, Hannah Keys. I felt a jolt in my chest. I asked the guest if he was planning to say anything. He shrugged. "I think it's none of my business unless she's in danger." I quietly showed the groom during a break. He looked at the photo, nodded, and simply said, "She used to be Hannah. She's safe now. That's all that matters." And honestly, that was enough. Story 45. This happened at a wedding in Alaska. Remote, private, incredibly beautiful. Only about 40 guests were there. The day before the wedding, some of us were out hiking near the cabin compound where the ceremony would be held. We passed an old trailhead sign, and stapled to the post was a laminated missing person flyer. I felt the blood drain from my face. The girl in the photo, Tasha Lynn, had the same scar under her eye as the bride. Missing since 2010. Back at the lodge, I pulled my friend aside, the groom's brother, and showed him a photo of the flyer. He sighed, rubbed his eyes, and said, "She told us the full story 2 years ago. She wasn't missing. She escaped. She just never told anyone until she found someone worth staying for." Later that night, we watched her read vows under the northern lights. And for the first time, she wasn't running. She was home. Story 46. The bride was beautiful, radiant. You know, one of those people who walks into a room and everything seems to glow around them. But during cocktail hour, I went to the gas station across from the venue to buy some Advil. Right near the register, taped to the lotto machine, was a missing person flyer. Name, Samantha Cho. Disappeared in 2013. And it was her. Like, exactly her. I took a photo and showed my best friend, who was a mutual friend of the groom. He texted it to him, thinking it had to be a coincidence. The groom never responded, but 10 minutes later, the music stopped. He walked up to the mic, took a breath, and said, "Some people spend their lives running. Others survive and build. Today I marry a builder." He didn't explain the flyer. He didn't have to. She kissed him through tears, and the celebration doubled in meaning. Story 47. I used to work for a nonprofit that helps with missing youth cases, so maybe I'm more sensitive to faces than most. At my friend's wedding, as soon as I saw the bride walk down the aisle, something in my brain said, "I've seen her before." Later at the reception, I couldn't shake it. I looked up archived flyers in our internal system. It didn't take long to find her. Elena Pierce. Missing from Nevada in 2010. Reported at age 14. Same eyes. Same birthmark. I pulled the groom aside discreetly. Told him I didn't want to ruin anything, but I knew who she was. His reaction was calm but fierce. She told me on day 1, "That name belongs to a scared kid. The woman I married made her own name. I never reported it. She wasn't missing. Just finally found." Story 48. We were in a quaint mountain town for the wedding, and I stepped into a bookstore the morning of the ceremony. They had a bulletin board near the register. I skimmed it without much thought, until I saw her. The flyer was titled, "Still Searching for Kara James. Missing since 2011. The photo looked just like the bride, who everyone knew as Mia. It rattled me. I showed the maid of honor, her college roommate. She blinked, then whispered, "Oh my God, that is Mia." We didn't confront her. But during her vows, she said something strange. I never thought I'd live long enough to be loved this way. I never thought anyone would find the real me. We all applauded, and no one ever brought up the name Kara again. Story 49. It was my aunt's wedding. She was marrying later in life, and none of us had met the bride before. Her name was Grace, and she was lovely, but guarded. After the ceremony, while people were getting drinks, I wandered into the community center's hallway, where a row of local missing posters was pinned to the wall. It was her. Younger, scared-looking, but unmistakably her. Julia Menard, last seen in 2005. I brought it to my mom, who immediately went into quiet crisis mode. She pulled my aunt aside, who calmly explained, "Yes, that was me." I got out. I started over. Grace is the name I gave myself when I realized I was allowed to live. It was the most honest I've ever seen someone be. The poster is still there, but now it has a handwritten note on it. "Thank you for searching. I'm okay now." Story 50. My buddy married a woman named Talia. They had this beautiful lakeside wedding, small and intimate, with handwritten vows and dogs instead of flower girls. After the ceremony, we took a walk around the property. Taped to a utility pole near the maintenance shed was a water-damaged missing person poster. Name, Holly Nguyen. Disappeared in 2014. It was her. No mistake. I froze. My buddy had no idea. I debated for days and finally asked him a week later. He said he knew. She told him early in their relationship. She left home after her brother was arrested for abusing her. Her family never believed her. When she vanished, they painted her as troubled, unstable. The flyer had been part of that. He said she sometimes left them posted, not because she wanted to be found, but to remind the world she hadn't been lost. She saved herself, he said. All I did was make sure she knew she didn't have to hide it.